And we're live. Hello, everybody who is joining me here live tonight. On most Tuesdays at about 7 p.m. Eastern, I go live on this channel. And tonight we have a special guest who I will be bringing on momentarily. But are there a couple of housekeeping things I need to take care of? I just want to remind everybody that Exodus Summit 2025 starts in 10 days. If you're a Black woman and you don't have your ticket, you should really do something about that, particularly if money is the thing that is keeping you from your move abroad. There is a link to buy tickets in the description of this video. And I thought I had a, a little banner to put up here, and I don't. I guess I misremembered. But what I do have is a reminder. This is the other reminder I wanted to do, was to remind you to get on the mailing list, particularly if you are interested in doing the Get Started Investing Challenge, which will be taking place at the beginning of November, because the people on the mailing list will get the registration link first. So, Exodus Summit, what did I want to tell y'all? My link is tinyurl/Exodus Summit 2025. If I'm the person you've heard about the summit from, I would love you to use my affiliate link. I think that's it as far as housekeeping things go. Okay, so if you have just tuned in here for the first time and you're wondering, who the hell am I? My name is Adelia Borshade. A lot of people know me as Picky Girl Travels the World. I was at a birthday, this is an aside, I was at a birthday party in Querétaro, Mexico for Rick of Our Black Utopia. And there were several ladies who came up to me who did not know my name. They were just like, "You're a picky girl." So I'm Adelia, aka Picky Girl Travels the World. This is my channel. I am coming to you live from Mexico City, where I have lived for, I think, 6 years, 6 of the 9 years that I have lived abroad. I share about my life living abroad here, but I also talk about money. I am a financial educator and coach. And I am somebody who used to be a school teacher who retired at age 45. And the way I was able to do that was because I took control of my financial situation. And so I like to talk about money here to help other folks do the same thing so that they can lead the life that they want. And I think this is a great time to mention who our guest is tonight. Um, Many of you probably know her, Tori Prophet. She is the person Black women call when they're ready to unpack their emotional baggage and realize that their therapist license doesn't carry a passport. There's a big tie between money and psychology and emotions and feelings that I don't think we talk about enough. So I'm excited that Tori is going to be joining us. She is the founder of Design to Heal Maternal Health Mental Health Center in Texas, and she is the creator of the Soft Landing Circle. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She understands grief, guilt, loneliness that often can surface during big transitions like moving abroad, something else we talk about here on this channel. And so let's not delay any further and bring Tori here. Hello, welcome to the channel.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, Adelia. I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you here because I have shared my thoughts on the mental health, mental well-being connection with money, but who am I? I'm just some lady on the internet. So I'm very excited to have a professional here to talk about this with. I read the book, The Psychology of Money,
Hmm.
and that kind of really, really opened my eyes to like, oh, this is like I kind of knew the
Yeah.
way people use their money, how they interact with it or don't interact with it,
Hmm.
was very much like I knew there was a mental component of it, but I didn't understand how deep that was.
Sure.
So reading that book for me was super, super eye-opening.
Yeah.
One of the things that I kind of wanted to talk to you about is this is probably in the work that I do, because I help women, particularly Black women, take control of their finances,
Hmm.
master their money, so they can live the life that they want, because that's what I was able to do. And one of the things that every time I host the Get Started Investing Challenge, I talk about, because we're talking about like, oh, you may already be an investor, you have a 401k at work. And I always say, this is the time to go grab that box of statements, those envelopes that come in every month that you don't open,
Hmm.
and
Dust them off.
you just put that in the drawer, you put that in the basket, go grab it. And
Hmm.
then there's always a whole bunch of women, a slew of women who are nodding their head. And that is such a universal thing. But I would like to talk to you about like why that is that like, people often avoid
Sure.
opening the 401k statement, checking their bank balance, those kinds of things.
Hmm. I mean, there's so much in that. And, one of the things I want us to get to later on is what's going on in the body and in the nervous system around that. But I think what we're most familiar with is those stories, right? Those money stories. And I wonder which ones you hear the most, right? You just described some behaviors, but I'm curious, what are the stories that you hear or the ones that people in the chat tell themselves?
Definitely, if you're in the chat, drop yours. One I get a lot. People will come to me because they are convinced that they are bad with money,
Mhm.
that they're
Mhm.
just bad with it. And
Mhm.
I'm of the I'm of the mind that no one is inherently bad with money, that,
Right.
it's about a lack of knowledge, because
Mhm.
that's very much the space that I came from. But I find that quite a few women I work with are convinced that like I guess like the fault is theirs,
Sure.
that like, oh, because I am defective in this area, I'm never going to be able to do that thing with my money, move abroad,
Mhm.
buy a house or an investment property or whatever it is.
Well, and that one even sounds similar to another one I hear from women a lot and girls is that I'm bad with math. And math and money, of course, go together. But and I know you
Well,
were a school teacher.
I was, but I taught history, geography, things like
Hmm.
that, because math and I do not get along. But
Yeah.
I separate the two. Uh, Math is not my ministry, but I know money. Like that's a
Yeah.
math I can do.
Sure.
But no, I can concur with you there that a lot of folks, because they were never mathematically inclined, that
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
transitions over to how they deal with their money, or they
Sure.
don't deal with it.
Sure. And a lot of times when we lack skills in doing something, we internalize that thought that I'm just not good with it, when actually, well, it's a learned skill. You can learn some skills, and we're all going to have skills at different levels, right? Or, and then it comes with a lot of shame, self-doubt, um, maybe past mistakes are kind of weighing in there too. And so when you've got all that combined, you've got a person who, when it comes time to open the bank statement or check the 401k, their body is going to have a fear response, right? They're gonna feel like I did before we got on, right? The little nervousness, right? Maybe something in your throat or like something in your stomach, and those things actually happen. So of course you would avoid that if that's how you feel every time the topic comes up.
I guess I've not thought about that physical component
Mm-hmm.
because I often, or at least in my perspective, I see women writing themselves off or discounting themselves when it comes to money in a way that they would not do in other parts of their life. So like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah, you do something stupid like I did and let some little boy charge a set of rims on your credit
I
card.
love this
Okay.
story.
Took me a long time to own up to that, but I figured somebody that might help somebody.
Sure.
Unless you did that, and then to internalize that and hold on to it like, oh, I did this thing, I messed up my credit, I'm like forever horrible at this. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that have that same energy when we make mistakes in the other parts of our lives.
Mm. I mean, money is so, maybe that's an indicator of just how charged money is or how pervasive it is or how integral it is to a capitalist system anyway. Right? You're getting messages all the time about money, subliminal messages, subconscious messages, very overt messages. Um, it in the trauma around money that people experience is a lot more than I think we recognize and give credit for. And it can really go deep into not only self confidence, self worth, right, which is I think even deeper than the self confidence piece. Um, it could go into just how you view your worthiness to others in the world, right? Your usefulness, your ability to contribute or not. All those things are big, huge themes, especially for us in the US, big themes about what you can contribute.
Okay, and so you mentioned the US piece, in
Mm-hmm.
particularly as somebody who has been outside the US for the last 9 years, something that I can see very plainly now that I did not necessarily see when I lived there, and I would say that this has probably gotten worse, is part of the reason I think like we beat ourselves up about that is because poverty is a personal failing in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
If you are poor, it is because you messed up, not because the system
Mm-hmm.
was designed to, disadvantage you. We label poverty as a personal failing. And
Mm-hmm.
I can see now like how, okay, well, I messed up here and I'm not worthy or I did something wrong and that sort of thing.
Sure, sure. Poverty, the personal failing, and when you make it, that's indicator of how hard you worked. Those types of things. We're not talking about all the underlying structures and systems. We're not talking about wealth being passed down that you never earned in the first place. Someone else earned that, but you're taking that as a sign that that means something about you that you have that, and why can't other people just fill in the blank?
Yeah. Uh, Big Up Yourself said, I watched my parents struggle with money and it scared me. I was actually embarrassed for them growing up and I might have embodied some of that money shame.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And then
Yeah.
Chanel said, my parents definitely influenced my money mindset. They bemoaned having bad credit, so I was determined not to because I knew it could be a setback.
Yeah.
And then I think there's also that group of us where there was never any conversation about money at all, how
Mm-hmm.
to manage it. And as we've already talked about, It's not that anybody's bad with money. It's a lack of skills. And so if you grew up in a house where nobody ever talked about finances, talked about money, talked
Right.
about saving, talked about like how much things cost and you know how I'm prioritizing the money that comes in, I think
Hmm.
that of course then sets us up for some difficulties in adulthood if there's never even a conversation.
Sure. Sure. And like any, so if you think about where we start in a family system of some sort, right? And we either get the overt messages or the covert messages about money. You can't escape getting a message about money, whether it's talked about or not, right? And so if you think about it, that's tied into our entire development, personal development, just as a from a child to a teen to a young adult to an adult. So you've got these messages going on, just like all the other messages about being a woman, right? Being black, being tall, being short, being all of the messages. We'll just take them all in a lump sum. But when we're talking about money, then you grow up and you might notice that, okay, well, here's how we do it. We talk about it in a therapy sense. We all have different parts of us that show up around different things. We have parts of us that are trying to protect us, and we have parts of us that are trying to keep us like soothed, right? So if you think of yourself as a whole little family unto yourself, there's going to be some parents, some parts of you that are trying to protect you, keep you safe, keep you happy, like a parent might do with a child. So, you know how if there's a small child, we're trying to keep them from crying. We're going to distract them. We may give them more sweets than they really should have, those types of things. Or if they're already upset and we're trying to soothe them, we might distract again. We might do all these kinds of things. So tying it back to money, we have a part in us that might be the worrier that's watching every dollar, right? We call this a manager part in psychotherapy. It's the part that's trying to take care of things. In other areas, it might be the part that is like over functioning, trying to keep control of everything. So we're going to have a part of us that's maybe a worrier. Then we might have another part that's like always saying, forget it, let's splurge. I deserve this. Right. And you're nodding your head. You can see how we can have this internal fight going on anyway. No, I don't need it. Fine, I'll splurge. How when it comes to that. So then there's another part that might carry an old family message like, well, money is evil, right? Or I'm not good with money. And then you have all of these parts in your head telling you these different things at different points in time. None of the parts are bad, though. They all developed so that they could protect us in some way, shape, or form, right? Think about the worrier that watches every dollar.
That makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Money is evil. I don't see
Mm.
how that is protective.
Well, and in a sense, for a particular person, I would want to know more about where that story
Mhm.
came from. But I definitely know from myself growing up in the South, that's a message that I've heard people kind of pick out of the Bible, right? The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, but people instead say money is the root of all evil, right? Or people will think, well, rich people are evil. And so by association, money is evil too. So then what does that mean for your relationship with money? You're not going to be comfortable using it, right? You're not going to be comfortable interacting with it. Maybe if you get it, it's going to immediately leave your hands. Or maybe if you get it, you're never going to do anything with it to enjoy what money is there for.
Ah, okay.
So there's all
Okay.
these different parts, and they're all trying to protect you from something. Maybe if you believe money is evil, that part could be protecting you. If you think of it in terms of a family, if you go around family members and they know you have money, how might they act? Right? There might be you might be ostracized in some families if they think, oh, she got money. right? And so, in that sense, money separates you from this support system. So, money might be evil in that sense, or a belief that money might be evil could be protecting you from being ostracized from that support system in that sense, you know?
So if somebody has, you know, and well, I was going to say what should they do, but actually, how do how do people even realize, like there are some folks who they are like, I was bad at math, I'm bad at money, or I
Hmm.
never have any money, therefore I am bad at money. So that I get how you get there. But like, how does somebody figure out that, like, oh, they have some shame about having money?
Mm.
Like, how do they, is that where maybe they need to talk to somebody professional? Like, how would they get that perspective for themselves?
I think you're talking a lot about just some self awareness and what it takes for a person to realize they need to ask themselves some questions. Um, and so, probably no one watching this right now falls in that category, right? And for people who, okay, so if there's one thing I may not understand about people, it's how you don't spend time in self reflection. Like, I
I don't
don't get that.
understand that either, because me and Adelia be having conversations and breaking stuff down and going through things. So I don't understand that, but I know it's a thing.
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And so, anyone, that person probably has, you know, a foot in the door with regard to this conversation that we're having. They're already reflective. And I would encourage them to keep being curious about their reactions around money. Like when you and I were talking before, I was saying I'm hoping that as the women attend the Exodus Summit, they pay attention to any self-limiting thoughts that pop up. Oh, I can't do that. Right? Oh, this is going to take too long. All these types of things. Pay attention to those types of things. Um, be curious about when you're avoiding money. Be curious about when you're just spending money, right? Be curious about the thoughts and the physical sensations that are going on as you're interacting with money or as you're interacting with content like this. I I'm in the chats. I see what people be saying, and when someone's introducing a program, I see the comments about, well, what about the rest of us who can't afford that? I mean, I understand about accessibility and all, but that's still an indicator to me of something deeper going on with you when you say things like that.
That is a comment that I see often, that I don't know if it frustrates me. And maybe that's what it is, because whoever's making that comment is already putting a barrier and a limit
Right.
there. And I am of the mind, or at least this version of me. You
Hmm.
talked to me 11 years ago, I might not have said this, but this version of me is like, well, if you want it, or how bad do you want it? Like,
Hmm.
I'm less inclined to say, oh, that costs $1 million and I can't do it, or what have you. I'm more driven now by, well, if it's a thing I want to do or a thing I need to do,
Hmm.
how do we figure out how to make this happen?
Exactly.
What needs to happen? So that is a comment that I too have seen, and it kind of gets under my skin a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm glad you mentioned folks attending Exodus Summit and maybe thinking, because I've actually seen this in sort of the run up to Exodus, where some folks are like, well, I've got this, and this, and I can't move,
Hmm.
or I just don't see how I can make the money. And like the whole point of this year's summit is different ways to make money.
Right.
But one of the things, I guess this is my pet peeve that I talk about here on this channel, is in the US, we have the condition that the best way to make money is from a single source. Like you have a job,
Mm.
you do a thing. And being out here in these international streets, I have gotten very well versed in like, you can do a bunch of little things as long as it makes you enough money to live the life you want. It doesn't matter. But I feel like the way we have been um, brought up to believe, like having five jobs or five things you do to make money is somehow makes you less valuable or less
Mm.
successful than
Mm-hmm.
somebody who has a single way that they make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's one of the things that kind of holds people up, particularly because often when you leave the US, cost of living is significantly less. So you can work at a pace and at a scale that is much smaller, much less than you would in the US. You dabble in a couple of things and you've got plenty of money. But that seems to be a
Mm.
very large jump for some people to make. And then they're just like, well, I can't find a remote job. I can't move abroad.
Sure. Sure. And even the way you describe it, it sounds a little bit like an all or nothing kind of situation, which even that response, I would say, is like a fight, flight, freeze response, right? Seeing a barrier, that's the danger, right? And having that freeze, like I can't do anything, or the fight, which would be maybe like, um, that's not for me, or those different types of responses because they see it as some type of a threat to what they've always known, what we've grown up believing. If the be all end all has been have this one job, well, and we've seen a lot of that change, right? Since YouTube and since the internet, just all of the opportunities. But so the mindset is shifting. I'm not sure
Yes,
quite as fast as things are changing, but I'm definitely hopeful that more people realize that for there's probably as many ways to make money as there are people on the planet.
probably,
Probably,
probably.
you know. So,
Several people in the chat are talking about, because you kind of mentioned this a little bit before, like when you are the family member that
mm,
has the money
hmm,
and the expectations that folks have for you. I have several people in my life that are the responsible one, the
yeah.
one who, when somebody totals a car, they're looking at them to help them replace. Oh, we're going to move to your town. No, we don't have any plan on housing at all. You got that big house. We're just going to stay with you.
Mm, hmm.
And like, it's
Like what's yours
basically
is mine.
the financial
Mm,
backbone of several generations of adult people who it varies from the various people I know, but that seems to be something that we probably ought to talk about.
mm. Well, and that's a huge topic, right? And my mind immediately goes to what is the intergenerational trauma that's going on in this family, right? The family dynamics and the family dynamic around money, it's all interconnected. And I'm more than sure that we could find out a whole bunch more about that family if we went back, a few generations. Yeah, I
Is
mean, that's
there,
huge.
yeah, no, it is big. And so I don't know, like if you're finding yourself because it could be that you are the first one that went to college and now everybody's like, okay,
Hmm.
we sacrificed to get you through school and now you owe us, which then of course makes it that much more difficult for you to move forward financially because you are supporting all of these folks.
Hmm.
Or people have just always depended on you, that you always got it. And so like trying to create boundaries with those people is hard because
Mm-hmm.
you don't. I'm thinking of one situation in particular. There were children involved, and it's like, well, I don't want the kids to be homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to extend myself financially to help y'all get a place to stay because I don't want the kids on the street. And
Yeah.
none of the adults were making any moves so that they wouldn't have to keep depending on this person financially.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that differentiation is what we call it between yourself and the other family members is an important boundary that we have to learn, sometimes the hard way, right? How can we still, offer some type of support to our family if that's one of our values without completely sacrificing ourselves? Taking some time to think about that. And I think when people get into this, when people stay in this kind of dynamic, that's also a result of this kind of, maybe it could be a free state too, if we look at it that way in terms of the nervous system, because they're not um, initiating any type of change in that dynamic, right? How about if I'm going to contribute to the family because that's important to me? How about I determine a certain percentage to contribute, and I'm doing this with the rest, right? Or am I so I don't like using the word triggered because people use that so much, but do I get so dysregulated in these interactions with people every time money comes up that then I can't find my voice enough to assert my boundary? Well, we have a problem, sis, and we need to address the root. We need to get your nervous system acclimated to this idea of setting this boundary, verbalizing it, and sticking to it. That's an inner work job.
When you say dysregulated,
Mm.
what do you mean?
So dysregulated means, in the physical sense, it has to do with the brain and the body's response. And so when I say dysregulated, what I'm referring to is your body's flight or fight, system coming online. Um, it's acting as if there is a threat, right? It's a perceived threat, and your body is going into this survival mechanism. It's not just fight, flight, or freeze. It could be like fawn, right? Pleasing and appeasing people is one of those fight or flight responses where you kind of shut down a little bit and just go along with what people want you to do. It's and what's happening in your body is you're literally, the blood flow to the logical portion of your brain is gone down to your limbic system, the part of you that's going to make you run or hide when there's danger. So you can't think through and problem solve on the spot because you're so dysregulated that you're down in your bottom brain and you are just acting off of survival, right? You're not making logical decisions. You're just reacting. So that's what I mean when I say dysregulated. And what I work with women to do is to be able to be in a situation like that and get their top brain back online, right? To calm the body and get their top brain back online so they can do and say and think the way they said they wanted to when everything was calm and we were just sitting and talking, in a session together.
Okay. So, because we started this conversation and I brought up that, often folks avoid opening bank statements, 401k statements.
Mm-hmm.
They avoid checking their balance. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about that there may often be a physical response,
Mm-hmm.
and that physical response is part of dysregulation.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So if you notice, and we notice this in different areas, if your heart starts racing when the thought of opening the bill comes up, You're just avoiding. So if you're just avoiding, you may not even be noticing these things. But that's like the behavioral representation of it. But yeah, if your heart is racing at the topic of money, or if your stomach feels like a little sick at the topic of money, those are all physical reactions to the anxiety you might be feeling around money, or even sadness. A lot of us can have some sadness around money, right? It can bring up painful feelings, painful memories. And so you might experience that as a heaviness, right? Some other physical sensations might be tension in your face, right? Do you often have arguments when it comes to money? For example, if you're with a partner or someone else that you're doing life with, sharing money resources with in some type of way, and you're arguing about it, there are a lot of physical reactions to the arguing, the yelling. If you feel numb or checked out, or find yourself saying, I just can't deal with this, there's going to be some bodily responses to that. Now, some of us are more aware of our thoughts first, right? And that's where mindset work can really be helpful. But some of us are having bodily responses and not paying attention to them, or notice those first. And so, depending on which one resonates with people more is where I start with them. If you're very aware of how you're thinking, well, let's start with how you're thinking, and then I'm going to work down through your body and figure out where those thoughts show up in your body, because they do, right? But if you're someone who's more aware of what's going on in your body, or maybe your emotions, then we'll start there, and I'll be like, well, when you have that pain in your chest, what was going on? And then we figure out, oh, I was thinking this. And so different people may need to self-reflect differently.
That sounds like that's great. But I feel like where we are in time in this moment, where every day there is some new horrible thing, that it's like, I still got to go to work. I got to keep the lights on. I got to process what this horrible thing is and figure out, am I immediately going to be impacted by this? What am I going to do? That sort of thing. The reflecting, I suspect, is going to fall by the wayside.
Sure. Yeah. If you were barely surviving, if you're just trying to survive and you're not in a state where you can thrive yet, then self-reflection really can feel more like a privilege, right? And I would say it's probably still crucial, but I can see why it would be a privilege. If you are literally in survival, then guess what part of your brain you're working from? This one, right? And when you're reflective, guess what part of your brain you're working from? Here, right? And so I'm a big advocate for working to maintain that inner peace no matter what's going on around you. There's always going to be some shit going on. Always.
Ain't that the truth?
Always. Right? I want a buffer around me, right? I want a calm environment in my mind, and I work very hard to maintain that. And I do think that is accessible to everyone.
How so?
To have a calm mind.
I
mean, it takes work. It takes the work.
Okay. So what are some things I could do? I'm back here leading with the back of my brain. I'm being avoidant when it comes to really looking at my finances. Like I've said, there are these things I want to do. Like I want to move abroad. Big obstacle for me in moving abroad is, how am I going to support myself? But then it's like, but I've got this thing over here and I've got this thing over here, and look at this horrible thing that's happened. How can I, this is a baby step.
Sure.
But what is something that I could do?
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw out a step. I don't know if it's a baby step. We can talk about that. But the first thing that came to me as you were talking was, well, my goodness, I hope this person isn't isolated. This person needs a community, right? This person needs a safe community. That's the first thing that came to my mind. So I realized that there are people that
That's a
have a
good first step.
I realize there are people that have a poverty of relationships, right? If we're going to talk about poverty, it's not just money. Some people are isolated. I would want them to be in some type of safe community, even if it's just one or two other people. Hey, I've been going through this. I don't know what to do about it, but I just needed to tell somebody. Cortisol dropping.
I think there are folks who think, I don't want to bother other people with my problems. And also folks who think, well, what is talking about it going to do?
Sure. And maybe there are some folks that won't be helped. I don't know. You know, there are people who will not access help. They won't, for whatever reason.
I mean, I think you're right. I think there is a lot of power in actually getting the thing out, saying it, and having somebody else hear it, at least, whether that person, and because if you safe community, that person should either be like, oh, that's fucked up, or girl, I'm going through it too, or something. And I would think you're the professional here, not me, but I would think that just having that moment and knowing I'm not doing this by myself. There are other people having a similar issue, something like that. I think there is some value in there, and that might give you some relief in that moment.
Sure. Well, and you know why I think that's the first step is because even despite the circumstances of anyone's birth, you are born into a system, a community of sorts. Okay. And that is where you learn to speak your need, right? As a baby, it's just crying, and someone meets it. That we're wired for that. We are wired for a relationship to help us ease our distress, right? We are wired for community. And so that's why I think it's the first step. And I can see why people would be skeptical that, well, how is just talking to somebody going to help me? I mean, of course, I hear that all the time with therapy, right? And I mean, I hear men say that the most. How is talking about my problems going to help? But, you know, then I can go into all the science and let you know how, you know, your body relaxes as you kind of talk. And it depends on who you're talking to. But, you know, again, if you're going to talk about the person who's just not open to receiving any kind of help, well, let's put them over here and let's focus on get in community, right? Start your healing with someone else. You don't have to know what to say or how to say it. Just share what you're feeling.
I think that what you just said right there is very powerful, because I think a lot of us think we have to be able to present it, whatever the it is, in a certain way, and we've got to have a certain vocabulary and all of that. And no.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, community can't show up for us if we don't ask for help. Right. And there are times when community will come to you and say, it looks like you need some help. Right. But if you're not going to receive it, you're not going to receive it. It's not going to help.
And that is this, because this is the conclusion I'm drawing here, and you tell me if I'm on the right track here. But your soft landing circle could be that for someone.
I mean, that's what I'm aiming for, right? When I was back at the beginning of the summer, when I was noticing the comments in the Exodus Summit group, I was seeing people saying, I don't have mental health support abroad. What about this? Then I started talking to people and understanding what they're getting from their accountability circles and what they're getting, you know, from the wide variety of communities that are in this family, this Exodus family. But the deep emotional piece was something that some people still had some needs around, right? And so then as I'm creating it and creating it, I'm learning, okay, well, the ladies don't necessarily want a course on how to manage emotions. They want a community where they can come inside and have the experience of processing their emotions, not just have something they can read that talks about it. They need to have the actual experiential moment of sitting with a safe person who's created a safe container for them that knows how to guide them and not let them get too dysregulated, and just sit there and process. And so that's what we've been doing these past few weeks. We have been sharing our stories, and we'll see what happens next. Right? This is an experiment that I'm doing that I'm hopeful will blossom into something that can hold more women. But right now, what we're doing is working. And the women, they just want to be heard, seen, and held. And so I'm privileged to be able to do that with them.
To me, it's incredible, and it's an incredible opportunity because several of the comments we have here in the chat are talking about how it is hard to find a trusting community. You know, this is part of the larger conversation I've had on my channel, as well as like the work that I do with Reclaim, is about like, if we're gonna survive this mess, it's
Mm-hmm.
got to be in community.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a system that is built on actually isolating us in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of us we don't know how, we don't have the skill, because we've gone from a very communal way of life to
Mm-hmm.
focusing very much on nuclear family,
Mm-hmm.
me and mine. And then for some of us don't have that, and it's just me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Or
getting
we've
in
been
community,
hurt by communities.
we've been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
We've been hurt, and one of the things you learn is like, oh, well, I won't do that again because
Right.
I don't want to get hurt again. And
Yeah.
so getting in community, like you've got these messages from folks like me and other people on the internet talking about, you got to be a villager. You want a village, you got to be a villager. But like, what
Yeah.
does that look like? How do I do that? So
Mm-hmm.
I think your circle is an incredible opportunity for someone who is like, I need somebody. I need somebody to be able to talk to. I need somebody to kind of help. I got all these feelings, and I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really I can't work through this on my own. And then you mentioned the piece about those of us who live outside the US. A lot of folks here who watch my channel are either already living outside the US, or that
Mm-hmm.
is something that they want to do. And you're right. When you are looking for some mental health support,
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard, because if you go to somebody locally, there could possibly be a language issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is some what is it? What is the word? Cultural competence that may
Mm-hmm.
be lacking depending where you happen to be outside the
Yeah.
US. So I think this is an incredible opportunity for women who are looking for support. This is for women, correct?
Yes, this is for Black women only. The Soft Landing Circle is
Okay.
only for Black women. And in our group, we have women who have moved abroad and some who are, in the preparation stages. And I don't know if we talked about this before, but if I may, also something very
Please.
exciting that I'm working on is a directory of practitioners that can work with women who are outside of the US, but they have competence in mental health. And so I've already got some providers signed up who are in Mexico, who are in Spain. Like, I'm getting people from all across the world who are either licensed in that country, or they are coaches with a mental health background, so they can work anywhere. And I'm really excited, getting lots of feedback. I'm posting in all my therapist Facebook groups and finding some good people. And I'm asking them those questions. What languages do you speak? Do you have experience supporting Black women? What do you think about it? And so right now I'm gathering interest from all of these people. And eventually at some point, I'll either have to vet all of them or something. I'll figure out what I'm going to do next. But I'm really excited to be able to get some more resources because, my little soft landing circle is only going to be able to hold so many women. Right. And it's not a replacement for therapy. It's meant to fill a gap. And even though it's therapeutic, it is not therapy. And so I could see, okay, I'm filling part of the gap over here. I think this other piece could really help too. I'm really excited about it.
I think it's incredible, and there is a good chance. You said you've already started. You've
Mhm.
got space for what? Maybe 1 or 2 more ladies?
Yeah, actually, I can take about 4 more people right now to finish by the end of this year, and then come mid-January, I can probably hold another group or a larger group by then. But yeah, if some people know that they want this now, that they need this now, then I encourage you to go to that link that Adelia put in the chat. If you know you want to sign up today, that's the link for you. Um, if you are someone though who needs to take more time and think about it, right? They're like, I don't know, Tori, I've never seen her before. Um, then I have a sign up link, another sign up link that you can get like on my email list, and you can get some free support resources that I put together, some journaling prompts, a meditation video, some books, and like lots of stuff that could be really helpful. That link is like the support plan link or something like that, and it's in the description.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. All of the links where you can see all of the awesome stuff that Tori does, that is all in the description of this video.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I realize, there are some people who can watch this and be like, yeah, that's exactly what I need. But others of us, we need a little more time, right? And I understand the trust building process can take time. And so, I'd encourage anybody, if you're a little bit curious, I'm also doing a free conversation this Friday. If anybody wants to talk about from freeze to flow in their finances, I'm just getting a few people together on Zoom to talk about it. The link is in the support kit. The link is in there. I like to do these little Zoom conversations. That's how I get to know what people really need. So I'm not just throwing out stuff that nobody cares about. And so, yeah.
That's the thing that I adore about you, is that it is, I mean, not that I got that much experience with folks in your field, but you're probably the first person I've seen that is like, you're really trying to understand what the need
Mm.
is and see how you can fill it. And I want to acknowledge that
Oh,
because that's a big
yeah.
deal.
Thank you. I
That's a big deal.
appreciate that. Look, as someone who I can go make a worksheet, I can build all kinds of stuff, just be making stuff and then nobody wants it. So I was like, wait, I'm going to stop doing that. See what people want. And it's part of my value is just to be helpful, right? I enjoy being helpful. I have very good boundaries and I don't deplete myself being helpful, but it's so fulfilling to me to be able to see a problem and be like, ooh, I think I know what to do. Let's go find out if that's what people want. So I appreciate you saying that.
There were a couple of comments that were in the chat that I wanted to come back to. Butterfly Style said, when he was alive, he didn't know exactly how much money he earned, even as a university professor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in my philosophy of money and finances, I'm gonna always tell people the first, because if no matter what the goal is, can I afford to send this kid to college? Can I buy this house? Can I take this trip?
Mm-hmm.
Can whatever. First thing I'm always going to tell you is figure out, where is your money going?
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you have and where it is going?
Yeah.
And when I say that, people often act as if, oh, well, that's like, I thought you were going to give me something really big to do. It's a simple thing,
Right. Sure.
but there's so many folks that like butterfly styles and share have no idea how much money they got coming in and even less about where the money is going.
Yep. Yep.
And
That's
it's
exactly like what we were talking about before, though. It's like people want some big magic thing, right? And so when people come to me and I tell them, oh, well, you just have to sit and feel your emotions. They don't want to hear that. I mean, but really, it's that simple. You do have to sit with them and feel it, right? You have to face it. You have to look at the numbers, your money, and sit with it. That is really the first step. People don't want to hear that. That's not what they want to do.
yeah, it's not, I always say it's not sexy. People
Mm-mm.
are looking for very sexy solutions.
Yeah,
And honestly, you don't need sexy solutions.
right. You need to
You
do
don't.
this baby step, and you need to do it for probably like, I don't know, how many. Do you ever tell people, like, look at your money every day for a week? Or, like, do you give them any
Yeah.
directives like that?
Yeah, it depending on I always start with like, well, how often do you get paid? Because you should at
Mm-hmm.
least be looking at it that much, um, versus like every week. If you're somebody who gets paid a month, once a month, like when you leave the
Mm-hmm.
U.S., often that is how you get paid, which is a
Oh,
big switch from the U.S. And look at it. Okay, so take the last month, take between now and the last paycheck. Where did that money go?
mm-hmm.
Because it's like they say, if you don't tell your money where to go, it's going to tell you where it went.
Right, right. And as you're walking people through that, what I'm imagining is their nervous system eventually is going to get calmer and calmer by the repeated exposure to that habit, that practice. And they start to rewire their brain and learn, okay, this isn't as scary as I thought it was. And from personal experience, nothing has ever been as scary as what it was in my brain. Not one thing.
100%. 100%.
I mean, except maybe the American political system, but we're not talking about that right now. That's
But
actually
yes,
the opposite for me.
it is. I've had that with clients quite a few times because when I work with people one on one, sometimes that is where we start. Like
Mhm.
we're opening those envelopes. We are logging in to the portal
And they
that
do
they
it with,
haven't. Yes,
and you
I
know
do
what
it
you're doing
with
with
them.
them? You're being their therapist in a way. You are co-regulating with them. And what co-regulating means is, like, they're borrowing your calm nervous system. They have a supportive person to go through these scary things with, right? It's mimicking the parent-child kind of thing. And that's why what you do is so powerful with people. Yes, I'm going to sit here and watch you open these envelopes. I do not mind. Take your
Yeah.
time.
And like you said, once we've done that or we've logged in and like I can explain, oh, well, you see this up here on the account, this is what that means, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, okay. Like
Yeah.
this is far less scarier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. The unknown is really scary for a lot of us, right? We are wired to avoid things we don't already know about, right? That's a protective mechanism that used to be advantageous to us way, way, way back in the day, right? Bears, dinosaurs, tigers, whatever, right? But now the unknown is really keeping us stuck, right? Keeping us in the dark in a way that, if you're honest, you don't really want to be.
I'm just going to reiterate that the fear of the unknown is keeping us stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Because I cannot tell you how many times I have seen this. People can't move forward on something they want to do
Mm-hmm.
because it is, well, I'm afraid. And what are you afraid of? Well, it is, it's usually things that they don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there going to be enough money, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if we look at the numbers, we figure out how much money is actually coming in. Because you could have, I've shared this story before, sat down with my daughter and was like, give me all of your bills. This is how much you make. And I was like, you should have an extra $800 a month.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so where is it? And she was blown. She was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, it's math. It's pretty straightforward, but
Right.
that fear and the avoidance that comes with dealing with those things that we are afraid of is absolutely keeping us stuck in a place we don't want to be.
Sure. Sure. And no one's excited to face their shame. No one, that's not exciting. I know I'm not doing what I should be doing with my money, and to expose that to my consciousness is dangerous. It feels dangerous. And then to expose that to someone else. I mean, I love that your daughter let you. Did she give you any pushback on that? Was she afraid you might judge her or scold her in any way?
I think the point that we are in our relationship now, no,
Mm.
because I'm like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is my job. Like, I could help you. And so she requested my help. This was not me just
Oh,
showing up and being like,
let
this
me
is what
see.
we doing. Yeah, it was not that. I was like, I made the offer, and then she was like, okay, yes, you can help me with this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Something you just said about shame and, doing the things we're supposed to do with our money or we're not doing. Um, I want to spend a little time on that,
Sure.
uh, because what we supposed to do, I got big issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and because I, this is going to sound weird, but I kind of don't understand shame.
Mm.
Like, because to me, it seems like you're ashamed, embarrassed of something like, well, that's your money is your business. So I don't understand. And I know it is a thing that people feel like, well, like I don't earn what I should be earning. And so they then feel bad about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that goes back to our American culture of poverty is a personal failing.
Mm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's your fault you don't earn whatever you're supposed to, whatever that number is and wherever that number comes from, because I feel like we got to question that too.
Sure. Absolutely. And when we're talking about shame, there's a couple of different ways I've heard people talk about it that's interesting. I can remember one. We'll see if my perimenopausal brain will let me remember the other one. But one of them is shame is we experience shame when we have internalized someone else's rules or values for us that are not really our own.
Okay.
And that one hits for me. That's probably why I can't remember
Okay.
the other one.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I live this life now, the only person's rules I'm living by are mine,
Girl.
which is probably why I can't wrap my head around.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
That makes
I'm
a
I'm
lot of
kind of
sense.
there too at this point, at this big age. I'm gonna be 50 this year. I don't really care. We do not care about what other people think or say about us at this point. But for a lot of people, they're not at that stage where they know what their values are and have the boundaries to protect those and live by those. So they're living by other people's rules, other people's expectations, and then when something comes to the light that shows, okay, well, they're not meeting those rules or expectations, it can be felt like shame. Now, other people will say shame is more pro-social, meaning it's an emotion that keeps you connected to the herd. Have you ever heard of that? Like in terms of like, whatever societies where being ostracized or kicked out of the herd would mean you don't have a chance of survival. That shame keeps
Okay.
you. So, and I maybe in that sense, you still are adhering to the values of the group so that you can stay part of the group and survive. I mean, so those are just some different ideas about shame that we could see how that's showing up for people around money. I mean, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, no, because I get clients who there's shame about what they earn, how they're spending the money, whether or
Mhm.
not they're spending it the right way, whatever that is supposed to
Mhm.
be. There's
Mhm.
shame about debt,
Mhm.
particularly when it comes to credit card debt, because it's like I think I do get a little better because they
Mm.
feel like they've let themselves down, or like I've accumulated this debt and at the expense of this thing that I
Sure.
wanted to do with my money instead. And so therefore I failed and I feel
Sure.
shame about that.
Sure.
Um, but like how people are spending their money, or whether or not are they spending it on the right people? Are they spending it on the right things?
Right. So
I've
they're
had
breaking some kind of rule that they have internalized, but that doesn't
yes.
really reflect how they truly want to be living. And that's one thing I appreciate about Ramit Sethi is that he
Mhm.
encourages people to figure out what they want to blow their money on, right? What's important to them. I do appreciate that kind of point of view because I grew up kind of listening to Dave Ramsey, and then one day I was like, I don't know.
This ain't good.
Something's not, so yeah.
Yeah. And no, and like I said, this version of me, that is where she is. The person I
Right.
was before, there was a lot of sh- what society said I was supposed to do and what I was supposed to be.
Hmm.
And I ain't never live up to that. And then magically I turned 40 and I was like, fuck it, I don't care. And my life
Funny
has
how
been
that
so much
happens.
better ever since. No,
Wow.
I say this all the time. There is something magical that happens when a woman turns 40.
Yeah.
And then I think about, perimenopause and like who women become at that point. It all kind of makes sense in the grand scheme of
Hmm.
things, but I
Hmm.
don't know the society we've lived in and been conditioned in. We've not really discussed it about like, because of course a woman is old after she's 35 and she has no value, instead of like, oh, that's really when women come into their own
Hmm.
and are really in charge of themselves in the way that they want to be. So
Hmm.
I'm very happy to have been able to do the reflecting and ask myself some questions, and I did not like the answers, and then I said,
Right.
okay, well, let me change what I'm doing so that I can have the answers that I want.
Right. Absolutely. You cannot start to change things until you face them and ask those questions. For
All
sure. Yeah,
right.
there's something magical that happens at 40. When I see my younger
There is.
clients, I tell them, look, girl, let me tell you the secret. All this stuff you're complaining to me about right now, it's not going to matter in about 3 years,
No, it
5
is
years,
not.
10 years. You're going
It
to
is
look back
not.
and be surprised. So, but yeah, I
There
think I
were
think women at our age have so much wisdom to share, and that's why I really value channels like yours and the others in our communities. We're sharing the wisdom. I don't know if the young folks are listening or not. I don't know how many people here are young folks tonight, but
probably not many, and that is one of the things that is on my to-do list, is because it's
oh,
like, if I knew this stuff at 30, oh, things would have been different.
mhm,
You things would have been different. Here's a question that maybe you can help with. I'll be starting my sabbatical July 2026. How do I respond to family pushback about leaving that good job tactfully?
Oh, tactfully. I'm glad she added that part because
Because I would have no tact, but that's just me.
I mean, there are some different ways, right? There's no response. I mean, and that's legitimate. Like, I'm not going to discuss that with you. This is what I'm doing, and I don't care to discuss my reasons or anything about it. Period. Point blank. There could be just some reflecting back to them. So these are some very like emotionally mature responses, right? You could say, when you ask me these questions in that tone, I get the feeling that you don't approve. Is that your intention? That could be a way to open up a conversation if you're wanting to have that type of vibe in that relationship. It kind of depends on the relationship with the family. If it's a good relationship that you want to continue to nurture and foster, then that might be a really great grown-up step to take, is to say something like that, open up the conversation so you can maybe have more of a mutual understanding. Let them know how their comments affect you. Um, you know, those are a couple of ways, responding tactfully. And I would also be curious about, well, what goal do you want to achieve by responding? That's one thing I'd like to know, right? Or if you're looking for approval, then we need to talk about that. But if you're just looking for a way to just be assertive, respectfully, then, that one I said would be great. And Nicole says, unless they're paying my bills, I guess I don't feel like I owe them any explanation. But maybe that's menopause talking. Well, and I feel like that too. But see, no one comes at me that way. So I've never actually had to tell people the things I think in my head.
Well, I like how you propose to kind of flip it back on them, because we've been saying this all along, because that's a question we get a lot. Like when people give me grief about me leaving the US, leaving the job, what have you, that's really about them. It's not really about you. And so I love the way you phrase that, where you kind of ask them and put the question back on them. Like, what is it that you are looking for from me by asking me that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I could see that would be easiest in a relationship where there is some trust or some safety, I think. Right. I could say that to my mom. Right. But if every time I come to you, well, I already learned not to mention to anyone, whether I want to move to Mexico or something, because then you hear the C word. And so, okay, if you bring that up, I'm going to stop talking. I'm not going to be trying to explain, validate, emotionally coach you. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just shutting my mouth, and I'm probably going to walk away from you. And sometimes that's what we have to do. Oh, this conversation's over. I'm going to go get me some tea.
Yeah. I think we don't say that enough. Because
women are taught to over-explain.
We are taught to over-explain, and it's about like, I don't want to come off, fill in the blank. And you don't have to engage with folks that you don't want to, and people who are not engaging with you in a fair way. Like, they're not coming at you in good faith. You don't have to engage in that. Not at all.
Right. And often the tendency to jump towards defending, explaining, placating, and pleasing. Okay, we're getting back into fight, flight, or freeze. We're getting back into unhealthy dynamics. We're getting back into needing some boundaries. We don't need to explain everything. Now, it may be a courtesy to explain to someone. So I may explain to my mom or my dad. It may be a courtesy to them. But, I will be quick to go in the other room when it gets, to a point where I know they're not receiving what I have to say. If you cannot hear me I don't need to be talking to you so much. Maybe we can,
Exactly.
come to it at another time when both of our nervous systems are better regulated, right? And if I know that person has a habit of not being regulated, then I'm probably not going to have that conversation with them. They're not ready for it.
All right, Jay Ward, how can we evenly balance the multiple streams of income with life? I have 3 sources and I'm exhausted.
Mm.
Tori's answer is probably going to be better than mine because I'm like, well, how hard are you working? Because when I talk about multiple streams, I'm talking about doing multiple things that don't feel like work. I am not
Exactly.
talking about having multiple streams of high powered things that are going to require a lot of you.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I don't have a much better answer, Adelia. I mean, I've got my therapy practice, I've got my coaching business, and in the coaching, I have multiple different little offers. And I would say I'm probably, half-assing on one of them at least. I'm showing up for people and I'm doing that 100%, but like the marketing and the this and the that, I just can't right now. I need to hire somebody for that. I think balance is a myth. I think rhythm and routine and systems and habits can be helpful. I don't know what the word balance means because I have different seasons in my life and they're all unbalanced in some way, right? One season when I had little bitty kids and was running a business looked very different than the season I have now with teenagers and running a business. It's not balanced. I'm working a lot, but because I love it, and I'm fine with that. I don't know. I think finding again, I still think you would be better to go into this, but I do think figuring out how to make it easy is like the biggest life hack ever. Can this be easy? Because if it's hard, I'm not doing it.
Pretty much. I don't want to be exhausted. I spent several decades of my life that way.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever, because I'm retired, but I'm barista-fi, coast-fi. Like I need to make a little money to pay these little bills right now, but I'm not going to do anything that's hard. Because I was about to say I don't believe in hard work. I'm not going to do anything that's hard. I'm not being exhausted. That's not it. So I would be looking at what I'm doing and are these things I really want to be doing? Are they exhausting me? Is there a way I can stop that part of it? Like, is there a way to do this where I'm not exhausted?
Exactly.
Because and I was thinking about this earlier when we were talking, about like fight or flight and all of that. There was that study that came out that talked about how women were suppressing, particularly Black women, suppressing their anger and their feelings, and how that was leading to chronic illness,
Right.
shortening our lifespan. Same thing with this. Being exhausted all the time is not going to keep you here. So I'm not trying to do anything that way. So I've never really thought about the word balance in that sense, but I'm whatever I'm doing, I want it to feel like not that much.
Sure.
I want it to be low lift. And if it's not low lift, it is not for me.
Sure. And one thing I recently learned was the value of pruning and refining. And for some people, not necessarily putting all your eggs in one basket, but maybe you don't actually need that many baskets.
That part. Part.
Sometimes we keep all of these kind of like as a little safety net, right? I think there's a little bit of hypervigilance that could be going on sometimes for some people. If I've got my hands in all of these pies, then I've always got something that can give me some money. Well, what about if you just put all your attention into these one or two things? Could you nurture those to a point where they could support you more, either financially or energetically? Maybe that's a question to be asking.
I think Black American women in particular have developed this, or we see it's, I guess maybe it's like a coping mechanism, but like you said, that we've got to have our finger in all of these pies because we got to be ready for whatever. We may
Mm-hmm.
be responsible for supporting family members, and it's like, this is how I can make that happen. And we got too many pies. We just need a couple.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you want your 45 pies, then make sure at least you have 2 days a week where you don't have your hand in any of them.
That
Something that's
part.
restorative. Maybe you can juggle more than me. I've never been able to juggle very much. I
No,
just I just
and
can't and don't want
I
to.
can't and I don't want to.
Yeah, but I used
Exactly.
to
And
feel guilty about that.
that's what I was going to say. I'm okay with not wanting to.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
what this looks like. I just had a conversation with somebody, and I've said this multiple times, because I think a lot of the stress and the weight of all that we put ourselves under is goes back to, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And
Mhm.
um like I have eschewed all of that.
Mm.
I don't want to, and I'm not making sense. Okay. I don't care that on paper I don't look successful. I do not own a house. I do
Mm.
not have a spouse. I am not, I've never worked a job and I've earned six figures. Like, these are all things, if you talk about, like, what does it mean to be successful in the US? Those are
Mm.
things we might check off on a list. I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
But I would argue that I am living the absolute best version of any life I've ever had. And I'm okay with
Yeah.
not meeting other folks' expectations.
Yeah. Yep. Love that. That's freedom. That's freedom.
Okay. There was one more comment here that I wanted to address, because I'm not going to keep you here all night, Tori. I think this is back when we were talking about shame. And Terry
Mm.
Ann said that my shame is at my age, I should have more saved or invested.
Sure. Yeah. We've gotten that message. We've grown up with that message of this is what you do and this is what it's supposed to look like at this age. So if you don't have that by those standards, you're failing, right? But we got to change the
Let,
standards.
let me let you in on a secret, because I have looked at the numbers. Nobody in America has what they're supposed to. There are those exceptions, like a Rashida Dow. Okay. And that's somebody who started saving for retirement literally from the first job she ever had. Most of us are not like that.
Yeah.
The vast majority of Americans do not have the amount of money they're supposed to have.
Yeah.
So I don't want you feeling bad about that, because ain't nobody meeting that standard.
You did a show on that, didn't you?
Yep. That's what I said.
Yeah.
We often beat up on ourselves because we feel like we're behind, or we're not meeting the standard. Nobody is. The world
Hmm.
in which we live in right now, nobody is. It is too hard. I
Hmm.
would instead focus on, okay, when do I want to stop working? And how much money would I like to have invested so that I can become work optional, and go from
Hmm.
there? Because there isn't a too late.
Right.
So I say, why worry about what them folks said I'm supposed to have? And instead, I just proceed with, okay, I've done the math. This is where I need to go. How do I get there?
Sure. Sure. Well, and I wonder how you got to such a resilient mindset. You know, a lot of people get mired in the past, right? And that weighs them down so much that they can't then get out from under that and look ahead to the future.
I like to tell myself that it is because I am resilient by default, that is why I have been able to navigate the trauma in my life and
Mm,
the setbacks and all of that. Because I know a lot of people like to say, "Oh, you're resilient because of the crap you went through." I would like to think not,
mm.
but I'm not really sure on that. Um,
I
I
think
mean,
it's
maybe
because
it's the
you're Gen X from Houston. That's just how we
probably,
roll.
and I have been responsible for myself
Hmm.
for everything except for like paying rent since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
So I could either,
Yeah.
you know, the early part of my life was not great. And
Hmm.
so I could get stuck in looking around at the lives everybody else had and how unfair it was that I got dealt the one I had. But I don't know, for some reason I decided to focus on, okay, well, how can I
Right.
move forward? What can I do to get me where I want to be?
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a practical kind of the practical part of me. I don't know.
Well, and for me too, there's something I love about practicality. I mean, if it's is it useful for me to think like this? If not, bye. Is this useful to think like this? Okay, bet. That's what I'm gonna go do. Right?
I
It's
will say
just
no, that came at 40.
yeah.
I was like, this doesn't like guilt. I stopped feeling guilty about stuff when I turned 40 because the way I looked at it, what was guilt doing? It
Hmm.
wasn't solving the problem. So why spend time there?
Hmm.
I think uh, part of when we feel guilty, it is because we want whoever we aggrieved to know we feel bad about the thing.
Mm. Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, have that moment, feel that thing, but staying there, that's not going to solve the problem, and it's not going to get you where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the practicality probably comes from being Gen X. Like, I don't know that we had any choice but to be.
Problem, solve it. I mean,
Yeah,
let's
I
just keep it moving. That's what I learned. Keep it moving. But yeah, I mean, I think in all of this, one thing I want people to really understand is if they have if they have not yet been successful in changing their money habits, um, if they haven't yet necessarily been successful in changing how they think about money, the mindset, those limiting beliefs, it's not it's not your fault. It's deeper. And that takes work and healing and community and all of those things. You know, I love mindset work, right? And I do mindset work and I do that on myself. But there comes a point in time where that's just the tip of the iceberg a lot of times. So if you're beating yourself up because you have not changed your money habits, you're not a failure. You're not failing. It's not you per se, right? It's not that you need to try harder. It's you need to try different, right? And that's where I come in with my nervous system realignment kind of work. It really does work wonders and gets people progress quickly because we're getting to the root of the blocks that they're experiencing. So, mine is a
okay.
message of hope, really. You know, I've been there. I thought, oh,
No,
I I haven't changed my mindset about this. What's wrong with me? Oh, it was deeper, sis. It's deeper than that.
I that hope is something that we need because there are so many voices in our society that again wants to make this a personal failing and
Hmm.
say, well, you messed this up and there is no hope, you can't come back from that. And
Right.
so I think what you're saying is very powerful. um and like I said before, I think your soft landing circle is it's an incredible thing and something that's much needed. Like you said, that when I think it's a good step in the right direction, that when you're like, oh, okay, that's the tip of the iceberg. I need to
Mhm.
go deeper. I need to be in community. I need to be in a place where I can feel these feelings.
Mhm.
And I don't want to feel somebody said this in the chat, like, I don't want to have to feel those feelings by myself.
Right.
This is the place to go. This is the thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You shouldn't have to feel all the feelings by yourself, right? It's okay that we need people. So,
Is there anything else that we did not say that we should have?
oh goodness. I mean, there's so much to still say, but I mean, I feel like we really kind of encapsulated it. And that last thing I said was really what I wanted to make sure to get across to people, that if you haven't changed your habits or changed your mindset, um, there's hope. It's not your fault. There's something deeper that needs a shift, you know? Because people get, told that they're weak or something for not being able to change their mindset, or they have a poverty mindset and all this kind of stuff. Well, okay, that sounds really
Yeah,
classist there.
it's blaming people. It's your personal failing,
Yeah.
and we don't believe that over here.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a holistic way of seeing change, a way that doesn't pathologize people. We're all just, people trying to do our best. So,
Okay, for those of us that are not well versed, when you say it does not pathologize people.
meaning, like you said, it's saying it's a personal failing,
Okay.
right? I
Okay.
think in psychology is often blamed for pathologizing people, meaning saying you're sick, you're broken, something's wrong with you. And
Ah,
that's not the type of psychology that I ascribe to. I mean, my therapy practice is called Designed to Heal for a reason. We are designed to heal and grow and thrive. And if you are not, it's not your fault. There's something in the way. Let's get that out of the way.
that part. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, Tori. Links to the resources, to the Soft Landing Circle. Tori has a YouTube channel. We didn't even get to talk about that. All of those links are in the description of this video. Um, if you are a Black woman and you are looking to make money, maybe it's for a move abroad, but honestly, it could be for anything.
Mm.
What is this? Oh, it's next week. It's in 10 days. That means this next week. I
Right?
have to look at the calendar because time, what is it? It
Yes.
doesn't mean that much to me anymore. But yes, next week, Exodus Summit is happening. And you should absolutely be there. It's all about making money, different ways to make money so that you can fund the life you want. And if that life includes moving abroad,
Yeah.
they absolutely have you covered.
And you're a speaker this
Um,
year, right?
I am a speaker. The I the second year I did not speak live because I was going to say I've spoken at all of them, but no, there was one. I think this will be my fifth out of six. Um, so yes, I'm a speaker, but as we've talked about already, I'm not going to be sharing anything that requires folks to work hard. But there are some ladies who will be sharing things that will make you lots and lots of money that you can put a lot of effort into. But yes, I will be a speaker as well.
Well, I've got my ticket. I hope everybody watching has theirs. I'll see y'all in the comments over there.
Thank you to everybody who came and hung out and made this such an incredible conversation. I see folks thanking us in the chat. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing to be and being open to these kinds of conversations. And before I forget, Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we will be live on this channel with the founders of Exodus Summit, Rashida Dow and Stephanie Perry. So I will see y'all again on Friday.
Yay. Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.